Invite a Budget Blinds style consultant to show you how to transform your rooms just by changing your window coverings. Canada's #1 choice for window coverings. Visit budgetblinds.ca today.
Welcome back. The Legion of Honor is a French military medal given to soldiers with exemplary service. And this weekend, a local veteran of the Second World War was presented with a medal in recognition for his service with the Canadian Air Force in France just after D-Day. Jeremy Thompson has more.
When we first landed, we were in Benny-sur-Mer, which has become the Canadian cemetery in France. Beautiful.
Earl Ingram recalls his arrival in Normandy more than 70 years ago.
There was a big battle further on, and they were having trouble breaking through to Caen.
Decades after his service, Ingram is presented with the Legion of Honor, recognition from the French government he helped make possible.
Oh, it means everything. I was there.
Almost everybody knows Earl Ingram in Lloydminster.
Raf Saeed met Earl through his medical practice.
Mr. Ingram came to Lloydminster in 1951. He is a pharmacist. He got his degree from the U of S, and he started a pharmacy practice here that many years ago.
Ingram could have elected to receive the medal in Ottawa from the French ambassador, but true to his Saskatchewan roots, opted for a smaller ceremony.
And he had a choice where he could have gone and got it. He chose to have it here in Lloydminster, low-key.
Though the spotlight is on Earl, he says the honor isn't his alone.
If they recognize me, they recognize the people who were with me, too.
Jeremy Thompson, Newcap News.
Usually goose hunting season is in the fall, but this year is different. For a first time ever, a spring season is open. Due to a huge overpopulation of snow geese, the Alberta Fish and Game Association is actually encouraging hunters.
So what's happening is when they go to their nesting grounds in the Arctic, they're so overpopulated that they are destroying the habitat there just because there's so many of them.
Authorities say one thing to watch out for is making sure you're hunting the right bird. Trumpeter swans look very similar to snow geese, but are listed as threatened species.
Last estimate was that there's only 166 breeding pairs in Alberta.
And just a note, hunters are allowed to get 50 snow geese a day. Well, today, most of us carry around an entire music library in our pocket, and getting a new song is as easy as downloading a file. But recently, music lovers have been celebrating the resurgence of analog. Jeremy Thompson explains.
It's a sound that Chris Holland loves. As the owner of a record store, he's seen a rise in popularity of vinyl in the past few years, something he partially attributes to International Record Store Day.
Well, it's been going on since 2007, and every year they tend to reissue or re-release, and some bands even come out with new stuff.
He's been listening to records his whole life and says music was meant to be shared.
With an iPod, you don't get something like this to look at, right? And inside, you've got everything to go with it, and there's colored vinyl, and it's just much cooler than a file that you can't even, show your friends other than listen to, right?
When you think of records on vinyl, your mind probably goes to bands like the Beatles or Bob Dylan, not necessarily DMX or Daft Punk. But these days, more and more modern artists are releasing their albums on vinyl.
Things are picking up every year, though. People are starting to get more into vinyl than CDs. So.
People like Derek Linscott, who just came in to browse.
Yeah, it's just a nostalgia. It goes back way before my time, but nothing beats the sound. I think music in the raw, the way it was meant to be heard and the way it sounds, it just makes it more real. It's kind of nice to see that the local guys are still doing it right in the old way.
Jeremy Thompson, Newcap News.
Well, it's time now to look back in the archives with this week's retrospect. As Annika Notfate reports, 25 years ago, poaching became an issue, moving the Alberta Fish and Wildlife Association into action.
It's a traditional thing. living off the land is how this country was settled. At that time, there wasn't even game laws. And as the population has gone up, everybody has seen the need to put some restrictions on it. But sometimes poaching is still considered socially acceptable.
And that, says Wildlife Officer Bill Peters, is the largest problem officials face. Peters says it's an ongoing problem. He doesn't believe that the incidents are getting worse, but only that it's not being taken seriously enough. He says the real problem is that the Midwest has a plentiful supply of world-class white-tailed deer. People tend to view poaching as serious only when it involves an endangered species.
The possibility of our white-tailed deer becoming extinct isn't the reason behind poaching regulations. The purpose is to protect a valued resource and to make it possible for good hunting when it's allowed. The key here is to motivate public concern, and that's the big reason behind a new provincial campaign entitled Report a Poacher.
There's not enough officers in the province of Alberta, never has been, I don't think ever will be, to actually protect the fish and wildlife resource we have. And if we don't get all the public concerned and helping us out, it's a losing battle.
The program operates much the same as Crime Stoppers. A toll-free number is available for people to call at any time. Those calling are guaranteed anonymity, and should the call result in charges being laid, a cash reward is available.
And now, talking with the Alberta Fish and Game authorities, they say the most poached species are deer, elk, and moose. They say poaching is a tough thing to prove unless caught in the act.
They estimate annually there's about 3,000 poaching incidents, of which they only hear about or make arrest in about 10% of those cases. That there's just a general lack of enforcement.
Well, that's all for Retrospect this week. I'm Annika Notby.